Hey, I'm Peachy, and we're about to find out to see if Pat can talk.
Hello.
He's got a cold, everybody. He's got a chest infection.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And today we are joined by Rachel,
Hi.
the Warhammer girl.
Yes.
Hello, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be on.
Bit tired, we hear.
Yeah. So sorry, everyone, for my appearance. I've had 2 hours sleep, and I've just been working and driving for what seems like my entire life. So I don't look my best right now. But do I ever look good? No. So it's fine.
You went to Mansfield. I mean,
That's true. Never been before.
I mean, I've been there. It's not a great place.
I cycled through it once.
Did you lose your wheels halfway through?
No.
Just suddenly stop at traffic lights and your wheels are going like, where you go?
Is that what it's like?
Yeah. Well, Dob.
No. I mean, well,
Dob is the same.
I mean, Nottingham has a bit of a bad rep as well, doesn't it?
Depends whereabouts.
Does it?
Like, well, I think about 15 years ago, there was a few incidents of gun crime.
Yeah.
I've heard this actually.
And then it
You're
gets...
right. You are struggling to
I might
say
have to
words.
give up. Or just be quiet.
Well, we are here to talk to Rach, so you just nod. And
It adds like a comedy element that I probably won't bring. So at least it keeps it interesting.
fine.
Or I'll just whisper a lot.
You just go for like your Clint Eastwood vibes.
Yeah.
Just like,
And everyone, because
Please don't make those noises whilst I'm talking.
I'll see if I can get through one anecdote.
Yeah.
Is my dad watches the show and he said to me a few times, Jesus, he's like, you need to get some women as guests and interview them, and then you're our first woman on the podcast.
Yay!
And then everyone will be like, why was Pat whispering the whole time when there was a woman on the show?
it's really shy.
He's so weird.
I know for a fact you don't have a cold, so you can quit the act. It's just me.
It's how he normally talks, unfortunately. It's really hard when we're
Yeah.
filming. He's just like, what are you saying, Pat?
Speak up.
Speak
Yeah,
up.
it's terrible. So I'll come in and out.
Yeah,
And then
that's fine.
we'll see what happens.
We've got questions. We'll be touching on some Patreon questions near the end as well.
Cool.
Our patrons are lovely. They have all sorts of... You've had a bit of a peruse just to make sure there's nothing
Yes,
weird.
I was very scared. To be fair. I was like, oh God, what am I going to be asked?
All sorts. I mean, it's...
I'm very open as well. So like if you ask a dodgy question, I'll probably answer it and then be like,
Heresy.
am I allowed to swear on it?
Oh, you will believe
Yeah.
that. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Someone clever will suddenly go, brother, or heretic. So it'll be fine. As you've already discovered, we often get known for this channel or this podcast called Sidetracked, because we start a topic and we just go off.
That's the best way though.
We've already done it. We derailed straight away.
Many tangents will happen.
That's good. That's the best way. So,
Yeah.
Rachel, hobby.
Yes.
What attracted you to painting toy soldiers?
God knows. No, I'm joking. I think like I've always liked art. I've always been arty, like on the creative side. Like I like music, writing and stuff. And I think also I'd heard that it was good for mental health. That's something that like I struggle with, and I actively use like my hobby presence to try and like like promote mental health and stuff. So it was a bit of a mix of both, and also just because I wasn't really doing much else, so I was like, I'm going to give this a go. And to be fair, it was never something I thought I would get this into. I was like, I'll do like a couple of minis and that'll be it. And then before I knew it, I had like an entire Necrons army, and I was like, what have I become? But yeah, it's so addictive. But again, like it's not something I expected to get into, but I'm really glad I did, because it's like a massive part of my life. Like it's almost like sometimes feel like not a second job, but because it's actually something I want to do and it's fun, but it's like takes up a lot of my time, but by choice.
Yeah, definitely dominates my personal time. I know.
Yeah.
Probably Mrs. Peach will be like, yeah, it dominates a lot more than what it probably should. I actually tried getting my wife into it years ago.
Oh, did you?
When it was probably a couple of years into when we first met, so this is like going to like 96, 97 kind of time, a long time ago. You're going to tell me you weren't even born then, aren't
No,
you?
I was 4.
Oh, that's all right. I feel less.
Yeah.
At least I was alive.
Normally when I have this conversation, people are like, I wasn't born then.
Yeah, I would have been 8.
Cool, that's all right. I feel really old now. Cool, mega. So,
I didn't think you were that old.
yeah, it's the bald head. It's like Picard effect. You know, for
I won't ask your age.
No, it's
43.
Whoa,
43.
well done. It was 43 in July.
Oh, it's you.
Yeah. So
42.
I'm still 42. I'm still on the younger side of 43, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
No
But yeah,
comment.
tried getting the wife into the hobby many years ago, and it panned out that she's not really interested in playing toy soldiers, but she's very, very good at painting toy soldiers, which she won't do.
Oh, it's a shame she won't get into it.
Yeah.
then.
Well, it's not that she won't do it. She appreciates the skill. She loves
Yeah.
Louise's stuff. But I gave her a rat skin, one of the old Necromunda models, and she painted it really neatly. And she did a little swallow tattoo on its arm.
Oh my
I
God.
couldn't even freehand to
That's
that level at that
amazing.
time. And I'm like,
Oh, I'm sad she's not into it.
I'm glad because then
Yeah,
she'd make
because
me
then
look bad.
yeah, you would be old news. Everyone would be like, "Who's Peachy?" Like,
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Well, Mrs. Peach.
yeah, Mrs. Peach is
So
new.
Necrons. Why Necrons then? Because there's a few people that are like quite passionate about Necrons for many reasons, but what's
I
your-
honestly, I don't even know.
just big robots.
I think so. I like that they're. So I used to be like obsessed with like ancient Egypt stuff, and like I sort of like saw the resemblance, sort of, and also they looked quite easy to like build and paint. Like they're not really that like. Well, people say they are spindly, but it's not like. For example, actually, my first ever army, not many people know this, was actually Lumineth.
Oh wow!
Bought an entire Lumineth box because I was like, they look gorgeous. Built one, and that was it. I was like, that's too hard.
Yeah.
Like now, I could probably do
Yeah.
it, but like as a complete beginner, if you're going to get into the hobby, do not start with Lumineth.
I can 100% sympathise with that because
so
I looked at them and I did some paint videos for Warhammer TV, and I was like, I'll try and make these as easy as I can, like battle ready levels. And I was like, this is really hard. And I thought, you know what, I like doing skirmish games now as opposed to big full on games
Yeah.
and stuff. And I was like, I'll do Lumineth Warband. I've done one model, did it as a test model for Instagram, not touch the rest because I don't want to because there's so much detail.
Honestly, it's just like it's too overwhelming. I just
Yeah,
look
it
at
is,
them
yeah.
and I'm like, I wish I had the patience. I don't have much patience. Like I like to get painting done quickly, like in a good way.
Yeah.
But I can't, like something like that, I would just get bored. Or not bored, but just frustrated.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
yeah.
I want it to be done. Or at least look half done
Yeah.
after 3 weeks.
Well, I'm going to chuck in a question then. Slap chop, yay or nay?
What is slap chop?
Oh my days! Such a well. So slap chop is a style of painting, and Rob from Honest Wargamer did like a little video on it. A lot of people have chucked some stick at him, saying like it's a technique that's been around for a long time. This, that, and the other. He just gave it a name. It's a cool name, but it's where you spray things black. You dry brush them like a light grey, then maybe a white, and then you just put contrasts over those areas, and it just blocks out the colour. It's a really quick and
yeah,
efficient way of
that's
painting.
what I do with
So you
some.
slap chop.
Yeah.
So yeah, good.
I slap chop and
Yay.
I didn't even know it.
There we go.
Have you got a
You
name
heard
for
it here first.
You got a name
Chop
for it?
slap.
Chop slap. I coined a new name for it.
Chop slap.
Yeah, it got some sticker last year, end of last year, something like that.
Yeah, I
Rob
think
did the
so.
video. So people were like, you can't call it that. You can't
I
claim
think
it's
I
your own.
vaguely remember this.
It was
vaguely remember
It was drama for about 2 months, and then everyone forgot and got
Yeah.
over it.
Why
It was
is
a
it
while.
drama?
I think that
So
you
much
get like
drama.
some levels of. So as an army painter, you have loads of techniques to get things painted
Yeah.
fast, and some of those are a bit convoluted. Some of those like using airbrushes, and some of those are like dry brushing and doing different effects, and like
Yeah.
I guess like Zenithal, but with dry brushes, which is kind of what Rob had done. And I think some people found it probably insulting that he was given a name to a technique that they know and love and use all the time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't coining it as his own, he's just giving it a name.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
making a fun sort of video out of it of like, I
Yeah,
went to
I can
Turkey
see- yeah, I
and learnt this
can
from like
see.
some masters, and it just bothered some people that he was trying to take it as his own, which he wasn't.
Yeah. And it went everywhere.
Yeah.
And
But what I like is it's given that effect a name.
Yeah.
So you get like not non-metallic metal anymore, it's NMM, and then you get like OSL, so object source lightning, if no one knows that, and then you obviously got your Zenithal sort of highlight and stuff like that. They've all got names, so people
Yeah.
know what you mean when you say it.
And now chop slap.
And now chop slap,
yeah.
coined by Rachel.
Yeah. I expect the
New
hashtag
drama.
to go viral.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, I'll be very sad.
We'll be having a new drama farm episode soon
Yeah.
on Honest Wargame, I reckon.
To be fair, like I like love finding like. Sorry, just
That's fine. I'm always doing it.
Headbutt. I'm all about like finding the quickest way to paint something, but also like making it look good.
Yeah.
So like with my Necrons, I think this actually helped me get into the hobby. Was like I found a really effective way of painting them. It was literally like spraying them runal brass, then going over in contrast and dry brushing. That was it.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
obviously with Necrons doing the warriors, I was like, if I hadn't found that, I probably wouldn't be in the hobby, because I would have just been like, this is too much, and got
Yeah.
overwhelmed.
Do you
Yeah.
plan to add to your Necrons?
Maybe. I still like, quite frequently I like miss them. I know that sounds really weird, but I don't know, it's like nostalgia now.
yeah.
I mean, it was only like a year and a half ago, so it wasn't that long ago that I started
I
them.
get that. I'm
but-
like that with armies. What I'm going to say is you need to get some runal brass because it's going out of stock. Because they're not going to. Yeah, I know. Taking it off sale.
Are they really?
No,
Yeah.
that's like oh no.
I don't know why. It's like it's a great metallic. So yeah, if you need to
I'm
get hold of
literally
it.
using it at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was common news. No one's told me secret news. I've
Funny
heard
guy.
this
Oh,
a few
right.
times from different people that it's been replaced because there's like a thing with Workshop which really annoys me and I don't know why. And I'm not like super negative about Workshop, but this thing bothers me. Only 12 sprays at any one given time. I'm like, oh come on! There's so many companies out there that have like thousands of different sprays and colours.
Yeah.
You can
Didn't
have
know that.
15 maybe. Yeah, 12 is like the max in the warehouse and on the store and stuff. So I guess there's a new colour and one has to go. And runal brass is it?
no, I need to go and bulk buy it.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to continue with your Necrons, because
Do you
I
know
need to
what-
get some more.
What's really annoying is that like I was just thinking, do I have any spares? And like that's one of the only paints where I only have one of them. So the other day I basically like bought some like nice shelves for like my hobby area to put some paints on. And I was like going through, literally found 7 Abaddon Blacks.
Oh.
Or Abaddon. I'm not going to get into this. How to pronounce it. I say
Yeah.
Abaddon, you can
I
like
say
get me
Abaddon.
cancelled.
I say
Yeah,
Abaddon,
I
yeah.
do as well.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, I know that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because they did their
It's
official.
pop band professor, isn't it?
video.
Abaddon. That's the
Yeah.
official, but I always say
Abaddon. No, I can't.
Abaddon is
Abaddon.
easier to say.
A bad one. That's how I think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
he is a bad one. He is a
Yeah,
bad
exactly.
one. He's a bad one.
Yeah.
A nice way. I like that. I never thought about it that way, but he is. Yeah, he's not a professor or a pop singer from the 80s. He's definitely not. It's Abaddon. So Don is like a term for professor, isn't it?
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh right.
There was a Rastafarian sort of poem called the Oxford Don. I think it's a way of describing a professor is in Jamaica as a Don, I believe. That's why
I'm learning a lot.
I could be wrong.
Me
People
too.
in the comments will be like, "Yes, I remember that poem because we did it at school years ago."
I thought
I
if
do
you
remember
were
some stuff from school.
Like a
Weird.
Don, you're like a gangster.
There's
or
also
something.
gangster. I suppose
Yeah,
you
I
could
was
say
thinking
pop
of,
gangster.
like,
Pop gangster.
Godfather style.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I went more Rastafarian professor.
Yeah.
So, circling back to something you said.
Was it Abaddon?
No. When you said you started the hobby to help, like with mental
Yeah.
health, something I found when I started painting was, it's I think one of the only things I can do in complete silence and
Yeah.
and forget that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I find that really calming. Like I'll start painting, and even when I'm working, sometimes I need something on in the background to
Yeah.
like occupy
Yeah.
my brain. But when I'm painting, I'm like, oh, I just sat here for 4 hours
Yeah.
and I didn't think about anything.
Yeah.
Is what's like your experience that
Exactly
you've had?
the same as that.
Yeah.
So oddly, I actually had this happen the other day. So I'm exactly the same. Like I always have to, like if I'm writing, for example, I have to have like fantasy music on.
Yeah.
So because
Good,
otherwise I
good,
can't
yeah.
like get into the writing mood because I write fantasy stuff, obviously.
Nice. I was hoping it was just like
no.
insurance. Epic Star Wars music in the background. Like,
Got to make it interesting somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started like doing some painting, and obviously, as we all know, like time, it's like a different time dimension when you
Yeah.
paint. It's like you're like, oh, it's probably been half an hour. It's like 4 hours later, you're like, how has that much time passed? And anyway,
Yeah.
so I was painting, and then all of a sudden I was like, this is in complete silence. Like
Yeah.
I think I've done it before, but not really like then become aware that I'm painting in complete silence.
Yeah.
But it's weird how you can completely shut off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can't do that for anything else other than sleeping.
I find it's like a
Yeah.
reset button for me. It's almost like a form of meditation in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're
I
kind of
agree.
controlling your breathing as well. Because of, one of the things if my wife would sometimes sit with me, or like even Charlie, like, weirdly they both sat around me sometimes, like watching me paint or like chatting to me. But back when we were a bit young, before we had Charlie, she would sit and chat and like read a book and stuff while I was painting. And every now and again, you know, because you're controlling your breathing, I'll be like like that.
So
and then she'd be like, "Are you alright?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" She's like, "What? You sound annoyed." I was like, "No, I'm breathing."
Honestly, Spencer does that to me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What?" And I'm not even aware I've done it. He's like, "You're sighing really loudly," and I'm just like,
No,
What?
breathing. We'll make great
Yeah.
snipers, I've heard.
Yeah.
Do you find you like hold your breath as well?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to do it,
yeah.
and then if there's like a really like hard edge highlight or something like really small, you're just like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you're like, "What am I going dizzy?" Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's the toilet breaks. I could go for... So we've done it here. It's like I literally sat and filmed for a good portion of the day, stood up and went, "Oh my God, I really need the loo."
Yeah.
It's like it's been trapped about here.
yeah,
Yeah.
can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah, the first video I made of myself was just full of me going like I'd do an edge highlight and
Yeah.
then would be like
It's weird, isn't it, when you see yourself do those things? Because you don't notice it until like I guess Ben's pointed out, or like my wife pointed out
Yeah.
to me and stuff. But
Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue otherwise.
yeah.
so you got into the hobby because you like painting. You're creative. I'm going to ask the question because I know a few of our patrons are. What's it like being a lady in the hobby? How have you found it?
It's very interesting.
Yes, I bet.
That is the diplomatic answer I'm going to give. To be fair, I quite enjoy, like, obviously there's like positives and negatives, so we all know what the negatives are. Like, I know that when, like, obviously you get like trolls or like even people that are actually into the hobby and just can't stand that like you're a woman in the hobby, especially if you've got like a big account as well. It's just like it's hard to take it when you get comments like I've had. I mean, this was a funny one, but everyone knows apparently I'm only successful because of my hair.
Oh,
so I mean,
really?
have you not heard this?
I'm screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how you've done it, mate.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Right, we'll carry on. Yeah.
But things like that, it's just, I mean, that's a funny one, like
Yeah.
that I genuinely laughed at that.
Yeah.
But when it's like a bit more harsh,
Yeah.
it's just really frustrating because I put like, and all, you know, like all the other like female hobbyists do, like put so much time and money
Yeah.
into the hobby.
Yeah.
And it's like why is it that we can't do the hobby, and why is it that people are like, oh, you're only successful because you're a woman? And I always try and like relate to whoever's making a negative comment, try and understand it, and I
Yeah.
do understand it in certain ways, but equally just keep your thoughts to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you don't need to actively go on someone's profile. Most of the people that leave me hate don't even follow me, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, why are you like taking time out of your day to come and insult someone? But it's just the way of social media.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I probably won't articulate it very well, but I'll try. One of the things I find absurd about the situation is, let's say, you know, because I've heard people say, oh, they only get 1,000 likes because they're a female. It's like, yeah, but they're not the ones doing the liking.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You're just the one doing the hobby, like I'm doing
Yeah,
the hobby.
just ticking along,
There's
enjoying
certainly
it.
I guess, a percentage of people out there that want to follow females.
Yeah.
Whether for good reasons or bad reasons, I don't know. But it's weird to blame you.
Yeah.
You're not the issue here. You're just a person like anyone else.
Exactly. I'm
Wants
just
to,
a person
wants
doing
to do the hobby,
painting
enjoy
plastic
it.
soldiers.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, the more opponents out there, the better. The more different points of view of creative flair, the better. Whether your reproductive organs are on the outside or the inside, I don't think it matters.
No,
I think what
exactly.
matters is people enjoying the hobby.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I find it really absurd. Recently, I was chatting to an old colleague in Warhammer TV, and they've been putting up some stuff on stories on TikTok and whatever, and because there's no face and it's audio, they've got a lot of stick now. So you've got Lizzie and Emma's videos that are just getting lots of hate.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And it's like, you know, your painting's awful, it's terrible.
I've seen
you know,
that, yeah.
And I'm like, would they have done that when I was still there, or would they have still done it when I was still there and it was me? Because I'm taking it personally, because I work with those guys and taught them a few things, but also a lot of they're just as good at painting as I am, if not better. So why suddenly this change in attitude and direction? Because they don't have a face anymore, or because they're female? I don't know. It's just really interesting dynamic and change that more people have come out and we're getting quite nasty about people's levels of painting. And I've always thought that at the Warhammer TV tuition videos are to be accessible, not because that's what heavy metal does. They do the box packaging, which is like, oh, look at that, that's amazing. I wish I could do that. You don't want that in a painting video.
Yep, I completely agree. That's my opinion as well.
It's just like, thanks for showing us that video on that thing I can never ever do.
That's the thing. Is like that's incredibly intimidating. Like if you've got that level of like painting where it's like heavy metal, like box art style. It's like even like, I would look at that and just be like, I'm not even going to try and follow it because I'm never going to achieve it. Like so, it is like I get it. It's all about it being accessible. I'm probably going to get some hate for making.
Oh, don't worry. We get it all the time.
I think it is. What I find really interesting actually is the hate towards women tends to come in like I don't know. All of a sudden it gets really bad, and then there's absolutely nothing,
Peters off
and
a
like
bit.
everyone's really nice. Yeah, it's really weird. So it's good. I think it has lessened. However, there seems to be this weird pattern to it where it's like all of a sudden it's like loads of people are getting hate, and I know a lot of people get it consistently. I'm not saying that like, you know, whatever, but it just tends to be like that, and then it just drops off and there's peace, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's changed, like everyone's nice now. And then all of a sudden you'll get something else. But I think it's going to happen with everything, especially again like depending on your reach on social media. Obviously the bigger the reach, the more likely you are to get like hate and stuff. And I think that's something I've accepted. I'm very much, some things I do share because, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, just ignore it, like just delete the comment, block the person, which I do sometimes. But equally, why should I take it and not share it? Because also sharing it, I then get a lot of like messages from women saying, oh my god, like I've had like similar things, and I do get the whole opinion of, oh, just delete it and block. But like,
I think there's elements of both that are valid. Like in the chat show that me and Peach did, just the two of us, we talked a little bit about that, and the comments were quite interesting. And some people said, like, get a grip, people on the internet. I mean, just delete it. And it's like, I can, like you say, try and put myself in their shoes. Apologies for the voice, it's so stupid.
I love it.
Must be so difficult to listen to.
It was great. People would be at home like trying to sort their volume out. What's going on?
Yeah, really distorted. Weird. And like, to a certain extent, I guess the hate isn't gonna stop.
No, it won't.
But then also, I think as creators, it's good to talk about, so that people can, I guess, don't feel alone in in their situation.
Exactly. And I think it's important, like, whilst I agree that the like deleting, ignoring, blocking, like that is like a coping mechanism style, but equally that might be misinterpreted by some people as dismissing their emotional reaction to hate, because everyone's got like some people's skin is thicker than others. Like agreed, and also like sometimes I'm absolutely fine, laugh it off, like don't care. Other times, like if someone's going through like beep outside of like the hobby, you're in a bad mood. Like if I'm then like having a bad day and then read something, obviously I'm going to get upset. So I think like whilst it's good to say to people, look, like you're going to get it, just like delete it, also like provide support, and just people need to sort of understand that everyone's different, everyone's got a different thickness of skin, so it doesn't work for everyone. And certainly like people have seen I've shared stuff, but that's just because like, well, why shouldn't I? I'm getting the hate, and I want to show that it does happen, and that also if people want to message me about it, then we can chat about it. And
I mean, it's like my coping mechanism a lot of the time, and there are some comments that do bother me, and I look back over and I'm like, do I want to respond to that? Do I feel? And something I've said to you, Pat, is like, if I respond to something, I'll respond to it as me with my name on it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, and I like, I don't know, use another account or whatever, it feels a bit like, if I'm not proud enough to stand up and say that thing, then I probably shouldn't say it. So if I do ever respond or like kick back at something, I'll give it a lot of thought. And what I've found a lot of the time for me is, I'll read it, I'm like, that's bothered me, I'll close my phone, do some stuff around the house, play with the kid or whatever, and then maybe like an hour or two later I've calmed down a bit and I've forgotten about it. Bath time, bedtime, story time, go to bed, do some hobby, whatever. I've forgotten about it and it's not bothering me anymore, and then, you know, I'm fine. Yeah. But then sometimes I might see it again. And then that whole emotional thing comes back. I'm like, that does bother me a lot. But and what annoys me a bit is when people use their personal experiences and their personal coping mechanisms to sort of like go, what, just do this. Yeah. And it's like, that's cool. You may have had a robust upbringing and can deal with this stuff, but you shouldn't invalidate anyone's feelings. Yeah. Because, you know, you have different levels. I mean, what is a bad day for a person will be different for different people. Like someone being a policeman, having to deal with a horrible accident is a bad day for a policeman. Yeah. But someone that's had a different day and coming home to like some horrible comments is mentally a similar sort of effect on that person at that time, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that mopping up someone from a road accident is the same as like a mean comment on the internet, but personality wise and how you're feeling at that moment and how vulnerable you might be at that point is the same level of emotion. It's just different situations, different upbringing, different experiences. Like, so don't invalidate any.
I think that's like what I struggle with sometimes, is because like I understand that when everyone, like, you know, what I will say is that the like positivity and like love that, like, especially when I share stuff, like the response from like the community is it literally have me in tears, like it's in like in a good way. But I think that obviously I have a lot of comments just saying, oh, you know, just ignore it, blah blah blah. But I think I do sometimes struggle with that, because like you say, and like I've said, like it then makes me feel that I'm being like stupid or overreacting, whilst actually like my feelings are valid. Like everyone's feelings are valid. Right? Everyone responds in different ways. So I think it is a really difficult balance. But ultimately, I know that someone saying that to me is their way of showing support. I know they're not invalidating my feelings, as in a malicious way. So I think that's important to remember as well, is that, I mean, some people come across like as really blunt in messages, but that's just how they write messages.
I mean, I'm guilty for that sometimes, and I'm like, I'll send a message and go, oh, that came out really weird. It's like the other day when you said, are we still on for Thursday? I was like, yes. I was like, oh god, that sounded really rude. I was like, to be fair, I didn't even like really realise, and then I think I replied and just put okay dot, and then I was like, yeah, we're even now. They sent a blunt message. I felt really bad. I was like,
I always hated emojis growing up, and I never used them, but multiple people said to me, oh, you seem really angry in your messages, and just using full stops. So now I'm like, okay, and thumbs up and all that jazz, just so people know I'm not mad at them.
Emojis are weird, so this is completely on a tangent, but it's quite funny. So
you're in the right place.
It's like like, I've had so many conversations where, like, people interpret emojis differently.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, so, for example, this is so weird. So, my dad, like, he's not in my life, really, and I don't have a relationship with him at all. And, like, whenever he messages me, my half-brother or half-sister, every message, he ends with a winky face. And we're just like, mate, you're coming across very weird. It's so awkward. He's like, I'll be like, oh, what are you up to? On the rare occasion we message, he's like, I'm off to the beach. Wink. I'm like, okay, goodbye. And then like 2 years later, like I'm just like, I haven't spoken to you since, because that was really weird and awkward.
Okay.
I do feel it is. It's like trying to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphics sometimes when I'm like, what? Because like, I talk to subs a lot and like hats and stuff, and like I'm like, is that too creepy? Having like a winky face? Maybe I'll do the eyes closed, the tongue out. Oh no, that looks a bit weird. Maybe I'll just do like a smiley face and thumbs up, but then that looks a bit sort of like lame. So I'm there like trying to work out what's the right level, and sometimes you get them back, and I've literally had to Google. So what does this emoji mean?
I've had people ask that. I've sent an emoji and they're like, what do you mean by that? And I'm just like, oh, it's this. They're like, oh, I thought it was something else.
Yeah.
Might just not bother, to be honest.
Yeah.
But basically, what I would advise everyone is just don't send winks. Like, it's very rare scenarios where that will come across as how you intended.
Unless it's innuendo, like, I'm going to peg you at a salute, wink.
Oh, God.
Close peg.
Right, Lying.
Yeah, probably. So, going back to the positive elements of it, and so you painted the lion, and that got in Warcom.
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
I literally cried. I was so happy. I was shaking for about 2 hours with pure joy. I'm quite like self-deprecating as a person, but I truly like never ever, even deep down, thought I would get into the article. Like,
trust me, it's hard. I struggled to get into it, and I worked there.
Savage.
Trust me, I was like, I did all sorts of things. Like, nah, we're going to have these. People are like,
do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Because you don't have great hair.
Oh, that's true.
It's the only reason I got into it.
Actually, I think you'll find I do. You just can't see it. I've not grown it out.
Illuminati confirmed.
No, it's good. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like literally amazing. I'm really, really grateful. Like, I'm grateful. Like, I never expected to have the opportunity to like do preview paint. Like, honestly, never expected any of this.
Yeah.
And I struggle with feeling like an imposter. To be fair,
same, yeah.
And that's not just because I'm a woman in the hobby. That's purely like I just don't feel good. I don't feel like I'm good enough to be like where I am with it. Not that
we chatted about this, didn't we? Because I was saying like you're going to salute. You're at the panel for women in Warhammer. I'm going to be on the Hobby Heroes panel, and that's Yolcassin Rhodes, and I feel like an imposter going to that because I'll just be sat on the end like,
can someone ask me a question, please?
See, to me, I'm like, how could you feel like an imposter? But it's all like it's like it's very like subjective, isn't it? It's like again going back to everyone like feels differently, and I think naturally like the majority of people are like to some extent quite self-deprecating and like don't believe they deserve stuff. But then you have like I think so many people are like, no, you do, but it still doesn't go in.
Most of my managers in the past have always referred to me as a flagellant because I'm just there constantly like just whipping myself, going, I'm not good enough. Good enough. This is awful. Like I put stuff in the cabinet. Like when I was in retail, I would like get like I don't know Lord of the Rings box set, and I painted up that evening. And I thought it was all right, and they were like, "Oh my god, it's amazing! That's going straight in the cabinet." How did you do that in like 4 hours in the evening? I was like, "That's what I do. I just like painting." But then I'm there like, "Oh, I can see like Awen's eyes. It looks like she's had a stroke on one side because it's like one eye's a bit bigger than the other or whatever."
That's the thing is you see the minute detail that nobody sees. Like the so obviously submitted the lion to be put in the article.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say where the mistake is, but there is something on it.
Ooh.
Is it one of those things, because I do this with Instagram, right, is I paint a model, look at it, really proud of it, take a photo, look at the photo, and then go into like Snapseed and like change the auto balance, the white balance on it so it's a bit nicer, because sometimes my lights can be a bit funky. Look at it, zoom in, happy, get me a post written, got me tags on there, post it, hair on his head.
Yep.
Is it one of those?
It's something I only realised when it had been published. Luckily, no one said anything, but it's so bad.
Did you take the photo and send it in, or did they take the model?
I took the photo, but yeah, it's like everyone's going to ask me this now, aren't they?
Yeah.
People are going to like spot the difference, won't it, on your article now?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, how? It's basically a bit that I've missed. I'm sure people probably have noticed it. To be fair, it's not that bad because it's to do with the armour, but the armour's black anyway. It's basically just an area where I've forgotten to even do anything.
Do you want me to make you feel better?
What?
There are so many examples of heavy metal paint jobs that have missed a bit and it's had to be coloured in by Photoshop.
No, okay, I feel much better now.
We're talking like Imperial Eagles on guns or belt buckles
Oh
or
my
like
God.
a Purity seal, and it's like been left black undercoated because they didn't notice it. Because sometimes you get model blind,
what
right? I refer to it as model blind. Like there's a
Yeah.
mold line. There's a mold
Yeah,
line. Like,
yeah.
I'll clean that up, and you carry on painting.
Yeah.
You carry on painting. You just suddenly become blind to the fact it existed.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like a piece of scenery. It was 2 parts, and it was a resin one because we didn't have the plastics at the time. There was this, and I kept putting filler in it, and when filler dries, it shrinks a bit, and it kept shrinking back in. So I'd put more filler, it kept shrinking back in. I was like, oh, for God's sake, I'll spray it, and then it looked fine, but it wasn't fully dry. And I carried on painting, and it shrunk a bit. And Dave Andrews would walk past, and go, "Don't forget about that mould line." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I will." And I kept forgetting about it until it went just before it went on to, because we used to have a table we used to put it on. He was like, "That mould line's still." And I'm like, "Oh my God!"
Oh, no.
So I take it away. But yeah, heavy metal have done that. They've missed so much stuff.
Isn't
Yeah.
it called
could've
like
been-
object permanence or something?
Oh, I don't know.
Where I think that's it. Maybe Google. It's
Yeah.
where like you're so used to looking at something, you then like either forget that it's there as
Yeah,
an object,
like
and
hiding
then
in plain
you
sight.
see it again, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot that whatever
Yeah.
was there. But I feel like because you're so focused on the mini, that you just do miss stuff because you're looking at it for such a long amount of time.
But you also have a process, right? Because in your head, and this is what I certainly have, is like, I'm doing this stage for these things. Oh, there's that thing I need to go back to. But in my head, I've still got this order of other
Yeah.
things I'm going to work through,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
that now outside of that order.
Yeah, that's
and I've
what
got to get my
happens
head
to me.
back to that. I'm always doing that.
Yeah.
God awful for it. It's like if I have like a unit of 40 figures and I'm working my way through. If I go and get a cup of tea and come back down, I inevitably miss a spear, carry on with the next
Yeah,
lot,
yeah.
and I have to go back and
Yeah.
repaint
Do it
that
all
spear.
the time. And also, when you do that, you look at it and you're like, how have I missed
Yeah, I
that
know,
for
yeah.
so long?
Yeah.
Like an entire unpainted back of an arm or something, and you're like, what? Like, how have I
But you do,
possibly
yeah,
done that?
yeah.
It's because it's after you've checked the mini as well. You're like, oh, yeah, perfect. And then you're like, there is literally no paint on this at all.
Yeah.
It's
I'm glad
it's fine.
like other people do
Studio
it as well.
painters do it all the time.
I mean, there's, is it in the Warhammer photography when they blue tack arms on, and
Yeah.
then there's photos of them all falling off.
Yeah, because on those lights, the heat just like makes it really tacky and just pulls away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's been so many times where, and I used to feel for the photographers because they'll be like doing their best, and then an arm will fall off, and they'll have to go downstairs and get it.
no.
Is this the right angle? Because it has to be at a certain angle because it's like been done a shot on white
Oh.
or a 360 for the website, so it has to make sure the head is at a particular angle. I'm just like, just paint more of them and glue them on. Just make your team bigger and glue them on.
Yeah.
So the guys don't keep like having to like go back down and go, what's the exact position for this head? I mean, I'm gonna tell something now which would have got me into trouble.
Ooh.
I'm very excited.
When
by
I was the
this.
photography manager, we had to get models fixed by Heavy Metal if they got broken by the photographers. But because the photographers were doing so much stuff, so much capacity, sometimes like the odd arm or the odd head would fall off, and they'd come up to me like, "Can you glue this back on?" Because they started making like a note of like whenever a photographer come down, and then it became almost like a performance management thing.
Oh.
For that photographer, it's like sometimes it wasn't even that photographer; it was just inevitable that things get broken, right?
Yeah.
So they come up to me, could you glue it? It's just like a spear tip or it's a head. And I glued a head on in the wrong angle.
Oh no!
And
Oh,
people
no.
came up and was like, do you know if anyone's glued? It's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Deny.
And the rest of the photographers was like, no, we don't know anything about it, mate.
Cool.
Because what would happen is we'd have to like fess up that we were fixing lots of stuff because just the capacity of what we had to do.
Yeah.
We didn't want to lose that. Because I didn't screw it up that often. It was just once, but that one time could have like stopped us from getting like photography done quicker.
Was
Yeah.
it like really badly at the
No.
wrong angle?
We're
Just
talking like instead of
slightly?
like that, it was like that.
Oh, okay.
But someone that
At least it wasn't
painted
backwards.
No,
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would have been a bit.
I've done that.
Yeah.
It's like, where's this head supposed to go?
Yeah.
Because it's like I can't remember what the figure was now. But it had like a weird shaped head, and I think I'd done it. It's like it was upside down or the wrong way round.
Upside down.
I can't remember what it was now. But
The first time I ever tried to build Custodes, I was trying to glue the torsos on upside down.
oh yeah. I've done that with like those battle droids from Star Wars Legion. I did them the wrong way round, and I couldn't get the backpacks and couldn't work out why.
no.
And I was like, I'm an idiot. That's what it was. Just me
I
being
think
an
I've
idiot.
done that a few times and stuff, and then you're like, why on earth did I think that went that way round?
Yeah, yeah. But you do. You just like I tend to build things in like product lines and stuff. It's just the way I
I struggle
go around doing
building, to be honest. Something that I'm slowly getting better at, but I'm very much more painting side than building.
Yeah. Is that being in a house of two hobbyists? Is that something you can get your partner to do?
No, he refuses to do it. Yeah, it's good though because it's made me like get a lot better at it. And because I used to absolutely hate it. Honestly, I was like, it just almost ruined the hobby for me. I was just like, I actually like got one of my mates to build. So he was like giving me some Terminators, and I was like, can you do me a favour? I was like, can you build them? And he, bless him, he built them and sent them to me. I was like, this is amazing. I need to hire someone to do
Just
all
to
my
build,
building. But
Yeah.
I think like once you get more used to it,
Yeah.
it's a bit easier. But I'm definitely I prefer just painting.
Yeah.
I think I use building more as like a break in between painting, just because like sometimes it's like with painting you're so hyper focused, whereas building you can like relax a bit more and like
Yeah.
you're not like hunched over your desk like
So
that.
I must be a bit of a dick then when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I was had this conversation a few weeks back because you were going to build some stuff for me. Well, you did build some stuff for me, but
Yeah.
I had this with marketing when one of my managers was like, we'll hire someone to build models. I'm like, honestly, I like building them myself because two things happen, certainly for video. If there's a mould line on there, people think it's me.
Yeah.
And secondly, if it's built wrong, I'm going to be really annoyed because I have to get it rebuilt and I
Yeah.
have to spend time rebuilding it. So I'd rather just do it. And also at the same time, I can study the model and plan.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing like my videos, I'm using that as planning time. And inevitably, when someone else has offered to build stuff for me, it's always had like something wrong with it. But yours didn't. The only thing that you did wrong was you used plastic glue and not super glue.
Yeah. Because
Oh, are you like
So we have this argument. It's like it's so funny because it's like plastic glue's better because it melts the plastic. I'm like, yeah, I agree. And then we started dry brushing and just like your shoulder pads kept picking up.
Oh no!
I was like, if you super glued it, Pat, we wouldn't have had this problem.
It's funny how like when you're building, some bits just don't stick
Oh,
with
yeah,
plastic
yeah.
glue, but it's like it seems to be really random. Like some bits I'm like, yeah, fine. And I'm like, yeah, that bit stuck. And I'll then be like building another bit and the entire mini will just break. I remember like I was streaming building, it was something Astra Militarum, can't remember now. And as I was streaming, the entire mini just like exploded. So I got that on video. And I was like, so that's the end of the stream. Goodbye.
That's terrible.
It just like came apart.
I mean, plastic glue has its merits for sure, and I've used it a lot for like when I do Astra Militarum because you have like the one arm that's got to connect with the other, and you need that kind of because if you super glue it, it dries quite quickly.
Yeah,
and then if you get that in the wrong place,
exactly.
then it's
Yeah.
a nightmare. But I
Yeah.
prefer using super glue just in case I want to break things off or change things.
I
or
can't use it. I just like
That's
use
just
too
weird.
much and it all bursts out the side. So I'm just like, I'll just use a tiny little plastic glue brush.
yeah.
I think mine came from because we used to primarily build resins. And it was
Oh,
the main
okay.
tool that we used, and I got so used to, from a speed point of view, using like the accelerant and super glue that when it came to like plastic kits, I'd still follow that same
Yeah.
process. Because when you're in a painting team and you've got to get things done really quickly, speed is the key, and plastic
Yeah,
glue
yeah.
takes a while.
Yeah, it
Unless
does.
you plan your time better, I suppose I could have, an argument
No, I
could be
get
made.
that.
Time management could have been improved. All right, Pat. If we do have random cuts, by the way, it's because
a coughing break.
who's going to have a
I need a lip seal break. My lips are dry.
Yeah, talking. I find that if I spend hours talking, I suddenly just like I'm constantly like drinking water. That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I always have tea on. Tea on. Honey.
Oh.
I
You're
mean,
right.
yeah. No.
So I did have a question. Pat's coughing fit kind of jolted it out, but it was going to be along the lines of so you and your partner, both hobbyists,
Yep.
both play.
So 40k I used to play it, but we just don't have the space really to play it.
Okay.
Spencer hasn't played it much. He's more like Underworlds, like he does
Okay,
Underworlds,
yeah.
which I've tried to learn.
So
But I'm so bad at learning.
Yeah,
Like,
same.
that sounds really weird. I'm bad at learning games because I have to learn. I have to do something. But then obviously when you learn a game, you can't do it, so it takes ages.
Yeah.
But we're definitely more like painting
Yeah.
focused, and our desks are like next to each other, and we have like TV, and it's like the best.
I was going to be angled at the lines of competitive play. Who's the most competitive? But I suppose you could argue that with painting. It's like,
Yeah.
do you like paint stuff? And he's like, I hate you. Far
Not,
better
do you
at
know
painting.
what? There's never been any like competitiveness between us.
Oh,
It's a
good,
very
yeah.
healthy hobby relationship.
Yeah.
Not to say everyone else's is unhealthy, but
No,
like
I know what you mean.
there's just never, we're like really supportive of each other. which is really nice because I think it's easy. I think everyone's like naturally a bit competitive and like everyone's like naturally a bit jealous. But there's just like none of that. It's really nice.
Yeah, I'm super jealous of Suggs. I mean, she's been doing it 2 weeks and she's already nearly trounced down numbers.
Oh yeah, she's doing amazingly.
I was just like, oh, well done.
Guys.
But we're super pleased for her though, so it's good to see.
Yeah, she's done really well.
She was so worried about like making the jump and like no one following her. I was like, you'll be fine. Everyone had the confidence around her to go, you'll be fine. Yeah. Trust me, you'll nail it. You'll smash it. She's like, oh, I'm not sure. What was if I don't? I'm just like, you'll be fine. And
like, I had no doubts. I was like, this is going to go. Like there was no doubt in my mind. I was never like, oh, that's a risk. I was like, she is literally gonna like absolutely smash it, which obviously she already is. So.
Yeah, she's doing great. Numbers are awesome. She watched a little teaser video, then the Rainbow Warriors and the Prismatic Sword.
They're awesome.
So prismatic, is that the way you say it? I think so. Prismatic. Yes, because it's got an I in it, not an A.
Yeah. Oh dear.
I teach my kid how to read books at night. In fact, he does correct me because. I never knew what, again, many people will, but like what graphenes are, digraphs, trigraphs. I was just like, what? So digraphs is like 2 letters, like 2 O's for book. It's like
oh, right.
Or like if it's air, so like if you're saying like hair, then you've got AI. So they're digraphs because it's 2. Then you've got trigraphs where it's 3, so it might be like 3 letters. And I'm there reading and stuff like, I go, Daddy, that's a trigraph. And I'm like,
what?
You're 5. Stop educating your dad. Anyway, let me carry on reading. Kipper. And I'll like miss a letter. And it's like, there's the, you missed out the, Dad. I'm like, I'm getting trolled by my own son. It's great. It's great to see him understand all this stuff. And I guess I'm starting to understand it a bit more as well. But it was just like, but my wife pointed out, I go, well, die means 2 and try means 3. I was like, yes, it does. Why didn't I make that connection? I'm such an idiot. Which is like, no, it's not obvious all the time unless because she works at school, so she.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
I subjected this stuff every day, whereas I paint toy soldiers.
Slightly different.
Stick colours on. I do a lot of colouring in. Professionally colouring.
Have you thought about YouTube at all?
Yeah, I thought about it at one point, but I don't even know what I would put on there.
Yeah.
Like what would people want? Because I was I did like a sort of short Necron tutorial, which I put on as a YouTube short, but I find it so incredibly hard to paint whilst filming.
Yeah.
Because I have to go like this.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult. Like, I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but I would quite like to do something on YouTube, but I don't think it'd be tutorials. And then it's like, well, what else would people want?
So
like,
we found this, which is, so obviously my background is painting, did tutorials for Warhammer TV, but although the tutorials do okay, we found that the chat show does better, or at least is quite consistent in its numbers.
Yeah.
And that surprised me, and it's like, mate, that's quite a big focus now. That's definitely 1 video a week we must do every week because it is quite a big draw.
Yeah.
Well, big draw for the following that we have. So it's like, as opposed to just being solely painting channel now, it's a bit of talky, bit of painty, bit of talky, bit of painty. So it doesn't always have to be painting. I guess there's a lot of because you talk about the mental health side of things and how that affects people and whatever. And that's always something I think is needed in the hobby is an open forum to talk about. And we were talking about it before you turned up. There's like one of the comments on our episodes where it's talking about like these things should be talked about, but at the same time it opens up to like it being a weird topic and people focus on the negatives and it's like, but you've got to talk about it to resolve it and to move on. It's like mental health in men. They talked about that. No one would talk about that for years because it was like men can't have these problems, and then it seems to be like the most. It seems like quite a common thing in the last like 5 years, where it's like you can talk about it. It's okay. No one should judge you for talking about it, but you still feel judged if you do talk about it. So I think the same thing applies to like how ladies are treated in the hobby, whether that's good, bad, the experiences they've had. It could be stuff like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just like spitballing nonsense ideas.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I do a video on my own, it's more focused on, I guess, I'm trying to learn how to do something.
Yeah.
And it's like that, I don't know, more of a journey than a tutorial.
which
I
is
think
not-
people like seeing stuff like that, to be fair.
Yeah.
and you get a lot of they don't get negative feedback, do they? It's more like helpful feedback, or like, oh, have you thought about this, or
Yeah,
I
like
like the way you've done that.
suggestions
Yeah,
and
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are like showing all these different videos you've looked at, and then you've gone on this journey to try some stuff yourself, and people are like, oh, what you've done here is this, where you could have done
Yeah.
this. So it generates a different sort of following and a different set of comments, I think.
Yeah.
Those levels do.
Oh, now you've like got my like brain like
Good.
whirling. I'm like, what could I do? Let me know. Send me a DM.
Yeah. So when this goes out, Salute probably would have happened.
Yeah.
But you're on the panel.
Can't believe that's Saturday.
It is, yeah. It's not
Yeah.
2 days away. So how does it feel to be on the Women at Warhammer panel? Women in Warhammer.
I'm gradually getting more anxious. Like not in terms of like the like whole public speaking thing, 'cause it's like a large part of my actual job, as in like outside of the hobby. But it's more, I don't know. Again, I think it's the imposter syndrome. I'm like, why am I on this panel? Like what? Like I don't know. It's just. I think that's my source of anxiety at the moment. Like, I'll be fine when I'm there, but it's always that fear because there is that really negative element, like from how some people in the hobby treat women. There's always that at the back of my mind. I'm
Yeah.
like, am I gonna like get someone to shout something rude? Obviously, that's not gonna happen. Fingers
If it
crossed.
does, they'll just embarrass
Nobody
themselves.
going should do that as a prank, by the way. Someone's going to do it now.
I'll be in the next room and go, "Oi!"
Yeah. Oh no, it's you now. But yeah, I think that's what makes it a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Is literally just like
Well, it seems well received looking at the South Warlord Gaming
yeah,
Instagram page, because they've been putting posts out of all the different guests they're having, and
Yeah.
they all seem really well received, and people are chucking in like questions like, "Oh, I want to know about this and I want to know about that." So, and you'll be surrounded by other like-minded ladies.
yeah.
that will,
It's really good. It's got a really good panel, to be fair.
I can't wait for it. I like Salute. I used to like going all the time, and with COVID happening, is this the first one since COVID? I think it is. But it's the 50th anniversary of it as well,
yeah.
which is surprising, because I remember my dad had military magazines, like military modelling magazines, and always used to have this thing called Salute, and I used to call it Salute. So I was like, what does that mean? What does Salute mean? I was like, my dad's like, it means salute, salute in the army. I was like, oh yeah. I used to get some words really mixed up, but that's just
Yeah. I mean, I my favourite one, or my mum's favourite one when I was younger, was mascarpone. I would call mass crap one.
Mass crap one. That sounds like some like really rubbish spaceship.
Yeah.
So I've got a worse one, but it's not to do with words, but it's still a confusion point when I was younger. I say younger, I was like 11 at this point. Until I was 11, I thought that my rib cage was my lungs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think about it,
Kind
you
of
can
is.
see how, like, because they're all like these gaps.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that's
Like
where
gills.
you breathe.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
I was a fish, basically. But then I was literally, I was like, I think 10 or 11, and I came like downstairs. And my mum was like, "Mum, my lungs are really hurting." She was like, "What do you mean?" Like, and I think she was a bit worried. I was like, "My lungs are really hurting." She was like, "Rachel, those are your ribs," and I was like, "What?" And it's quite a like old age to like only realise that at that point. But yeah, I was like, very, very confused.
I can't
Blew my mind.
draw to mind now, but there's been a few revelations in the last like 10 years where I'm just like, how have I not known that until now?
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I've had it a few times, like, in the painting team or whatever, just like, I feel so stupid knowing that that's a thing, and I didn't know. I mean, I called foliage for so many years. It's like foliage, and my wife would be like, "You mean foliage?"
Foliage.
She's like, "That's what I said." She's like,
That's
"No,
close though, isn't it?
it's foliage. It's made of foil."
Yeah. People get the idea. It's fine.
I know. I mean, I know what I'm on about. That's the
Yeah.
important bit.
Shall we do some?
I was going to say,
Patreon questions.
We've got a whole bunch of questions.
Oh, help.
DHL are asking me for something, and I have no idea what that's about. So, we kind of
so
touched on that.
nervous.
So, Andrew Holmes talks about like the mental health side of things, being a female and the hobbyist and stuff like that, but we kind of touched on that a fair bit. So, we got whether this been following for a while and enjoy her style of painting. My question is, given time and resources were no object, what army would you like to paint, create? Doesn't have to be Warhammer.
Ooh.
I know you're called the Warhammer girl, but it doesn't have to be. It could be called the Star Wars Legion girl. I mean, that's fine too.
No, it probably would be. I keep knocking the mic.
Don't worry,
Probably
it's fine.
would be Warhammer.
Just don't drop the mic. Psych.
They're on arms, so you can't.
Oh, that's such a difficult question.
I think you kind of allude to it, or create as well. If there's something you really
I've got
want.
an answer for that.
Oh, good.
Studio Ghibli.
Oh.
Yeah, that's like my dream. Do you know what Studio Ghibli
No.
is?
Yeah.
So it's a Japanese film production,
Yeah.
Japanese. I've literally got tattoo. Oh, wait. These are Studio Ghibli earrings.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognise the
Yeah.
design. Yeah, just didn't know.
So it is literally my dream for them to. I mean, they don't really do any merch, but it's basically a Japanese film production company. It's like anime, and that's something. Before I watched one of the films and got absolutely obsessed with it, like I was like, no, I'm not ever going to get into anime, but they're brilliant. They're like amazing films. So I'd absolutely love to have minis of all the characters and paint them.
Yeah.
Oh, God, it gets me excited talking about
Oh
it.
yeah, like a cat bus.
Yeah,
Like, that would
exactly.
be amazing.
a
Yeah.
cat bus.
Oh yeah.
A bus
Yeah.
made of cats.
No.
They would be amazing as miniatures, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
All the
yeah.
characters.
So because I personally, I feel like I missed the boat with anime. Like I generally don't watch any of it.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I'd go to my dad's, and he'd put on My Neighbor Totoro,
Yeah.
and then Spirited Away,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
I'm just
Oh, you
enjoying
have
it,
to watch
watching
that.
you struggle trying to say words. And
I've got used to it now. I'm not
Yeah.
even noticing it now.
You're doing really well.
Yeah.
I've got to say, you're doing really well.
Oh man, I'm
Yeah.
trying. I've
So
run
that's
out of
respect.
water, so we're gonna go downhill now.
So Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I wish that was a possibility.
Yeah,
Would you be then the Ghibli girl?
The Ghibli girl, yeah.
The Ghibli girl.
yeah.
The Warhammer's Ghibli girl.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you
really good.
It's a bit like.
I feel really
left
bad. I'm
field,
like,
isn't it?
now I've seen like the earrings
Yeah.
and like the imagery. I
You have to watch. If
roughly
you're
what
gonna watch one of them, watch Spirited Away because that's
Yeah.
the most mainstream one. I mean, most of these films are above like rated an 8 on IMDb, so they're like really,
Oh,
really
really?
good films. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Spirited Away is in the top like. I can't remember, but it's really high
Yeah.
up in the top 250 IMDb rated films.
wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
really good.
highly recommended then. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
watching it. Good.
And yeah, Totoro is a classic.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite old now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the one that's like really aimed at kids, and that's the one that kids like absolutely
Yeah.
love. They're like obsessed with it. But it's good because they're all suitable for kids, but there's like adult themes running
Yeah.
through them. Like some of them are like, oh, I'm not going to go into. Like I have like cried my eyes out at them.
Yeah,
There's one in particular. It's called Grave of the Fireflies.
yeah.
Don't watch it.
Okay.
Don't. It's too traumatizing. It's brilliant, but it's very traumatizing.
So is that like a wartime?
Yeah.
one? Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. Oh, I'm getting emotional now.
We'll
Next
move on.
question.
We'll move on.
Go.
Cut!
Stephen Harper, how does she choose her painting projects and find the balance of hobby for the purposes to post about as a content creator and hobby for personal joy? Is it the same thing? Or is it different?
To be fair, like every mini that I've been sent, I've absolutely loved painting, which is brilliant to be fair, because obviously that is the only difference for me is just the pressure, and there isn't actually any pressure. Like you don't have to do it,
Yeah.
but obviously I feel it's such like an honor to be sent stuff. I want to do it, and I really like the line. I'm obsessed. That's my favorite mini I've ever painted ever.
Yeah.
So I think like what I do is when I'm feeling really pressured and just a bit stressed about putting content out, I then just think, okay, what mini, if I could choose any, would I want to paint? So for example, I watched Starship Troopers for the first time, like I think it was about a month ago, and then bought a not Tyrannofex, the other one. What is it? Oh my God,
I
what is it
struggle with the
called?
names. I struggle with the names because there's like Herospecs and then
Hey,
there's,
something like that.
Yeah,
Oh God, how embarrassing.
oh god, they've all got weird. After Carnifex.
Oh, Turvagon.
Turvagon, thank
That's
you.
it.
Yeah. Because there's certain builds do certain things. I'm like, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
And I used to paint them. So
Yeah, I get confused with those. But yeah, so I bought that, started that, and I was like, this is really fun. And then like, obviously bought a the Snotlings like Blood Bowl, and like had that as a little break, like refresher to get me like into it again. But I wouldn't say I ever struggle with like balancing anything, just because so far like everything I've been sent, I've been like, this is amazing, and I can't wait to paint it.
Yeah.
But it does get, I think I've touched on it on Instagram before, like it does get hard sometimes, like in terms of like being a creator. I hate that word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it is hard because you do feel pressure to put content out, but I think as long as you're aware when you start slipping down that, like, oh my god, I'm really pressured, like, it's putting me off, as long as you, like, catch yourself and then do something about it, like just randomly paint a mini that you love or whatever, then it sort of stops that happening. It's when you don't realise it's happening and then you get into like a pit of despair. Happened to me a few weeks ago, and I was in a really bad place mentally, and then I was like, for goodness sake, like, it's my choice what I do. I just need to remember that it's my hobby. I do it for a hobby. I don't do it for money. Like I just literally do it because I love it. But yeah, it's hard. It is sometimes hard to balance.
Yeah, I could see sometimes you will put pressure on yourself. I mean, we do that, don't we? Sometimes, like, we need, because for us it is a job, but at the same time, the stuff I do at home is for me. Yeah. And I often think, oh, I should post this or I should post something. No, I should post that one.
Yeah, exactly.
If I want to do a post of like a Luminef character with a rocky background, I'll do it. If I want to just paint a random figure on shot on white, I'll do that. So
it's like the other week, I literally just posted because I noticed on one of my like mini shelves that there was a bottle of Gaviscon, and I was like, that's really funny. I just posted that. I was just like basically said, put a caption, and that was it. And I obviously, again, I literally made an entire video about this topic, but that whole thing where you do get into like a trap of becoming like obsessed with like the amount of likes you get, and I'm not gonna lie, like I said on my video, like that's me, like, because everyone craves validation, and there's no shame in like almost like just talking about how it is nice to get likes. I mean, that's the whole point of Instagram, because that's the function of it. Like, if it wasn't, there wouldn't be a like function. But I think it is sometimes like can become toxic. Like, I think it's dependent on your personality type. Like, I very much like crave validation. I'm too open, honestly.
It's fine.
Everyone knows all my mental health issues just because I'm just like, I crave validation and I want likes, but it's just, I think I've got better at that, to be fair. I've somehow like got out of really caring that much.
Yeah, I agree with that though, because I'm the same. I might not actively go out searching for, but when I put a post up, I want it to do all right.
Yeah, exactly.
I want people to like it.
Yeah.
And sometimes there'll be like a post that I put a lot of time into, and it doesn't get as many likes as one where I've hardly put any time into.
Yeah.
And then they're like overthinking, well, what is it that's different about it? Is it the lighting? Is it the day?
It's just the algorithm. That's the thing. But you then automatically, because like I've said before, like we're putting art out there, and that's very personal because it's literally your talent. You're putting like your talent out there, and if like you spend hours and hours and so much of your time on something and then it doesn't get many likes, it's very hard to not take it personally. But 99% of the time, it is just the Instagram algorithm. Like, it just the time of day. Like, there's certain times of day and certain days. So if you post, nobody's going to like it because they're working. So if you're not aware of that, like, it can be like
and I can
really...
find the internet's contradictory on that as well, because some sites say post on these times and this day,
and then others say
and I was just like, which is it? So I've had to just work that out myself.
Well, it's
what
like
works for me.
One of them says never post on a Sunday evening. Every post I've done on a Sunday evening is
same.
I'm just like, what? How is this information out there? Because if you think about it, Sunday, everyone's like got Sunday blues, probably scrolling through Instagram, chilling. It's like, obviously that's a good time to post. So if you want your post to do well, post on a Sunday evening, and if it doesn't do well, I'm sorry and don't blame me.
That's fine. This one tickled me. It's more of a statement than a question. Nick Ames is saying, looking forward to seeing some more top tier influencer hair on the show, as apparently that's what gets her views.
I told you, everyone knows it. Like, it's just my hair.
Okay, what we've got here. What inspired you to get into hobby? Well, I kind of touched on that from Irish. Elle Smith, the existence of the Warhammer girl suggests there's a lineage of Warhammer people. Who would you pick to be the Warhammer granny and the Warhammer grandma? Keep up the good work. Been a follower for a while, and your resilience in the face of ignorance is admirable. That's Elle Smith.
I think it would be Peachy.
I could get a blue rinse. I could totally do that. I could dig granny clothes. I've dressed up as a grandma before. I've dressed up as Xena before.
It's meant to be.
No one would believe that as a dress as Xena. My wife used to have a Xena outfit when we used to do like cosplay stuff. Going out and doing stuff.
Amazing.
And then one year we were asked to like swap roles, and she got dressed up as a soldier and I got dressed up as Xena. That was a fun day.
Do you have any photo evidence of this?
I don't know if we do. We might do.
I'd love to see that.
There's been numerous times where I've dressed up in Liz's clothes for funsies.
Warhammer Grandma then?
Yeah, totally. Could
change
do
your username. The Warhammer Grandma.
Do it.
So you mentioned about what drew you into paint Necrons. That was Bulge Wizards asking, like, you know, what is it that drew you in? Okay. Joe Rogers, since there is no upper body strength requirement for wargaming, what other barriers exist that might discourage more women from playing, painting, or otherwise engaging in toy soldiers?
I'm sorry, what?
So
Yeah,
since there's
say
no
all
I
of
don't
that again.
understand.
so since there is no
Also,
upper
I
body
have
strength
upper body
requirement
strength.
for wargaming, meaning like something to do with shoulders, I guess, because men have different shoulders to women. I don't know if that's what they're getting at. What other barriers exist that might discourage women from playing, painting, or engaging in toy soldiers? Do you think there's any other barriers? There's no
What
barriers.
other than
We'll move
Oh
on.
my god, I'm so confused.
I've read it.
Also, what are you
Maybe
saying? I'm henchmate. Like, not
You
really.
do climb.
Something
don't you?
was-
Yeah, I climb. Yeah.
Yeah, I love climbing.
Do you climb?
Yeah,
Oh yes, I absolutely love it.
Used to run a
Obsessed.
climbing wall. or
yeah.
work
I
a
used to
climbing wall.
work at the
Sorry, Joe. I said it wrong.
the depot
Did
in
you?
Nottingham.
Oh, amazing. Do you know, it's so funny, like, it seems like so many people into Warhammer also do bouldering.
Yeah,
It's like, it's an odd...
Bouldering.
Yeah, that's, as in, like, so
Without ropes.
bouldering is without ropes, that's what I do, and then climbing's just...
I call that gambling with your life.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
scary.
there's mats.
Oh, right.
It's not above, like, the deep abyss or anything.
Could
Yeah.
we lose you one day and suddenly I'm having to learn how to wade it on my own because you went bouldering?
No.
Well, some people, like my friend saw someone like fall off the wall and break their leg, so it is quite scary.
Yeah.
I'm scared
Yeah.
of heights, so I've no idea why I've chosen this as another hobby, but it's like nice to overcome fears, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on a slight tangent. I remember years ago on terrestrial TV there was a documentary about a guy called the Mountain Runner, and he used to climb mountains without ropes but run up it. So he would
Oh my
like
God.
launch himself and run really fast. I think it was a Native American guy, and you just watch it. This guy was like so surreal. And then that film, that same documentary they did, he slipped and died, and they had to mention at the end. It's just like, oh god. So it's like, yeah. So
Oh
they made this whole
my
documentary about this
God.
guy doing this thing with all the footage,
Oh, savage.
but they couldn't finish it because he killed himself
Oh, no.
whilst filming the documentary. It was, I forget what he was called now, but it was just like watching him just run up mountains because he was like literally launching himself from cliff edge.
I
to
mean,
cliff
that's
edge.
like really gambling with your life.
yeah,
to be
yeah.
fair.
The
Yeah.
I would
adrenaline
not
hits.
advise doing that.
Yeah.
Don't do this at home.
Yeah.
A lot of the like free solo guys,
Yeah.
or like base jumping and all that kind of thing. Loads of them are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Bouldering. It's
Bouldering.
all
Who's
right.
that guy that went up El Capitan? Oh, what's
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Alex Honnold.
Yeah. Absolutely mad, honestly.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
okay.
is, yeah.
I was expecting like he died.
Yeah, no.
It's fine.
Give it time.
Okay, so
Oh, the savage.
Daniel Lane, 3 questions.
Oh, God.
Oh, wow.
Greedy. You've grown a considerable following in a short period of time, less than 2 years according to IG. What do you attribute to your success? Probably your hair.
My hair, yeah.
And what would you
Next
do
question.
differently if you started over? And what advice would you give to anyone looking to make their hobby their career? So the 2 last ones make a lot of sense, actually. You know, would you do something different if you were to start from scratch again? Cool. And any advice for anyone wanting to start their own hobby career or hobby as their career?
Trying to think, to be honest. I think just don't put too much pressure on yourself to grow your account.
Yeah.
Because that's like can be really detrimental to like mental health and like something I struggled with. And I do understand that obviously because it is male dominated. Like, literally the figures show it. Like 3% of my following is women and the rest is men. So I understand that obviously it does help being a woman. I'm not saying that women are only successful because they're a woman, because I'm a woman. How many times shall I say women in this sentence?
Is that because I'm intrigued by Instagram as a platform anyway? Does it take that information because you put your gender? Because I don't put my gender into my settings. So
That's a good point, actually.
So if you don't put your gender in, or if you say prefer not to say,
yeah, then it probably wouldn't factor into the.
because I bet there's a lot more than you probably realise.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah, that's a good point. But still, obviously, it's still lower than like the
3%
male
is still
following.
pretty low. It's probably a good sort of
Yeah.
baseline,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I mean, it's you have a higher female following than we do. Ours is on YouTube is 1.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, mine's 50%. It's the hair. It's not. I'm joking.
I was going to say it's definitely not.
Apparently, I'm a hot catch in China. I've heard this from a few people that have sent comments like, "You're quite popular in China with the ladies." Like, ow! Really?
Someone actually sent you that? Oh, wow.
That's so
Brilliant.
bizarre. It makes me embarrassed every time.
Going
Okay.
back to like the question though, is just I would just say just don't
Yeah.
just don't put pressure on yourself. And also, I mean, there's things in terms of like if you're actually asking advice on how to grow an account, it's just try and please the algorithm.
Yes,
Just
yeah.
try and work out like because the thing is, for example, take me and Spencer. What works for him in terms of growing is completely different. And what I would say is people that follow you get used to the ways you take photos of your mini.
Yeah.
So Spencer's is always like against a dark background on its own without hands or anything, whereas mine are a bit more like I'm holding the mini.
Yeah.
And so people, when they see that, they immediately know it's me. And if they follow me, they'll probably like it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to remember.
Yeah.
I could literally give loads of tips on stuff like this, but I guess...
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
but-
heard that with like your background. If it's like all the same, or if you like how it's because it's in blocks of 3, isn't it? If it's like done in a certain way, it's like you've got like 3 reds, then 3 blues, and 3 reds, and 3 blues.
Yeah.
Because it's visually pleasing to look at. That seems to have a lot of effect. I've heard people doing their posts as reels helps get them the interaction.
Reels are funny because they like whenever I post a reel, I guarantee I lose probably about 15 followers.
Really?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's because I do understand like people on Instagram for different reasons. Like if you just want to see pictures of art and no reels, like fair enough, like it's your choice what you see. So if you don't like the fact I do reels, that I literally like understand, like just
Yeah.
unfollow me, like it doesn't matter.
It's something like the bots as well, because I get followed by lots of random
Oh,
bots
God,
and stuff,
yeah.
because they're dropping
There's
out all the time.
loads.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
loads.
It's like, you
It's
can tell.
weird. It's scary, to be fair.
Because our Instagram presence is only reels.
Yeah.
But they're sort of like shorter versions of tutorials and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Those do well, to be fair. Reels like that.
yeah. And I guess we do okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we lose any followers. Is that when you say like when you post reels, is it like bloody hell? Say if it's like a viral piece of audio, like a TikTok style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like what I've noticed is because sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll use this like bit of audio because that's like as you say, like a viral thing. It makes no difference in the Warhammer community. Honestly,
No.
like it doesn't, because the audience for the majority of those sound bites is not Warhammer. So
Yeah.
like people aren't gonna, even though you're using the same audio, people aren't gonna see it on their feeds because it's Warhammer.
Yeah.
So like that's not gonna come up in their like feed. So I just like, I'm not really like with reels. I really like making them, but I only do it for fun now. I don't do it to try and gain followers.
Yeah.
I did a reel. I thought because it was like TikTok was competing with Instagram, or Instagram was trying to compete with TikTok,
Yes.
weren't they? Hence,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
reels were being pushed, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll do a 360 in my, because I did some clone troopers in the camo scheme from Revenge of the Sith, and I was like, I'll do that, and I found some audio which was like the start of the Revenge of the Sith, where the 2 Jedi, Obi-Wan and Anakin, are flying through the ships, and I like that music. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll do that and add that, and I synced it right, and I was like really proud with like the 360, put it up, got hardly any views, and then a week later the audio wasn't available anymore. I was like, oh,
Oh, that happened to me.
I was like, but the audio made
So
it.
annoying.
I was like,
That
sorry,
happened to me when I did like an unboxing of the Lord of the Rings, the Battle of how do you pronounce
Osgiliath,
it?
that one,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'd like put the Lord of the Rings to it, and I was like, love it. Like everyone loves Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And then I went back the other day, and it's like this audio has been removed. I was like, well, that has made it utterly useless. then.
Yeah.
The audio made it.
Yeah, it literally did. Like that's the whole thing. That's why reels exist, is for the audio, really. But yeah.
You can answer this if you want to. You don't have to.
Oh, no.
Skinny Man, what has been your worst interaction in the community, and what has been your best?
So my worst, I got sent a picture of part of a man that I didn't ask for.
Oh,
cool.
no.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that
Was
was.
it his earlobe?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, earlobe.
Very offended by his earlobe.
Yeah.
Let's just call it his earlobe. So yeah, it was like complete. Like, it never messaged me before. I've probably still got it on my phone somewhere. I blocked him, but the chat is probably still there. I'm not going to bring it up. It's like, oh yeah, look at this.
I don't get that though.
Oh,
I don't understand.
I never expected that in this hobby, and I know a lot of other women in the hobby have had the same.
Yeah,
not from the same person, but
Maybe.
probably like bulk sent it out. Was just like hoping that someone would be like, "Oh my god, amazing! Thank you so much. Should we go on a date?" It's like, what do these people expect us to do?
For me, it's like, you know, you get the cars that rev and beep, like right next to you, like when there's a lady walking or whatever, someone will get your attention, they drive past, they make really loud noises and beep at you. They're going so fast past you, you're never going to have the opportunity to stop and get the number. You're probably never going to marry him because you think, heretic. And it's the same kind of mentality, isn't it, really? It's just like, what are you getting out of that? Or is it just the fact it's like a control power kind of thing?
Yeah, I think men do, and like it's not, this is just one of the reasons probably, but I think it's they know that we're going to respond in a negative way, and they like that they are causing that reaction.
Yeah.
It's like degrading, like,
I see.
I'm going to send this and they're like not going to like it, and I've like got some sort of power over them out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that's one. I mean, some of them, they just get off on it. But
Yeah.
so that's the worst interaction, which wasn't really an interaction because I obviously did not interact. I wasn't like, thanks, man. Like, really, that's made my day, because it really didn't. The best was... did they ask best interaction?
Best, if you got one.
My best interaction is actually, again, on the mental health piece, is like just the amount of support. Like whenever I've said I'm really struggling and things like that, honest to God, like it's maybe like in tears, and it's just, I don't know, it's just so refreshing to see like how everyone in the community seems to like rally each other.
Yeah.
Obviously there is negative, but that's the same in everything. So literally best interaction is just from people being so supportive. Like it's really, really touching and really nice.
It sounds really weird, and probably like people are like, that's a really weird statement to say, Peach, but I sometimes think you need the negative people to realise how good
definitely
how important the positive people are. So when we had the hack, it was so nice to see people rally around us when we got hacked. We said that on a previous show, but you need those knobs or those dark times to see, appreciate the people. The light. I guess
make it profound.
Yes. That is quite long, so I probably won't.
There's no light without darkness.
Yes. Right. Okay. There's some big ones. Preferred biscuits from Trevor Bailey.
The Biscoff ones.
Oh, I was going to buy some of those this morning as well.
Oh!
I went for these savoury snacks, and
I'm a massive fan of savoury. I don't really have a sweet tooth, to be fair, but I'm obsessed with Biscoff. Oh my God, it's my life.
Yeah, they are nice.
I shot a wedding recently, and they had like a cake table, and there was Biscoff blondies, and I left with like half a dozen.
I haven't really, all I've eaten today is these like rice cracker things.
You better take them all back, will you?
Now I'm literally like salivating thinking about Biscoff related edibles.
Man.
Edibles? No, that sounds... I don't do drugs. I meant, you know what I meant.
I just assumed food, but this is how innocent my mind is. Edibles?
Oh, Peach.
I'm sorry, don't know what pegging is.
I literally was about to pick the peg up.
Don't know what incels are. I don't know all this stuff. Andy Hairy Sticks Wedmore. Good name, Andy. What line of miniatures would you most like to see get a rework, new sculpts, also least favourite miniature range, and why is it Tau? Poor Tau. I've
been thinking recently, I do want to see, I know like Necrons were only updated like not that long ago in like relation, but I would absolutely love to see new like stuff for them, just because it's my first army. So it's like, for me, I hadn't seen what they were like before. Obviously, I have now, but I would love that, because it's like, for me, that's the like nostalgia side. Like, it would bring that out, and I think that would be, I would love to see like an update for them, but I know that's not going to happen probably for ages.
You never know. Like never say never.
I am demanding it. Do it.
I lost me thing. Oh no, internet.
Do you say least favourite?
I have to scroll back up. Yes, least favourite. Yes, you're right.
Luminef? No, it's not those. I don't really know.
I don't think there'll be a negative thing, because my least favourite is Orcs. I love the background. I love the miniatures. I just don't enjoy painting them.
I really enjoy painting orcs.
It's weird, and I get a lot of stick for it,
I
but
like the green
I think it's
skin.
because I got exposed to orcs quite a lot when I was in the studio,
Yeah,
and I'm just sick and tired of painting green skin, bone, and stone, which I hate. There's textures to paint.
yeah, that's fair enough.
I don't know why.
Had
I'm trying-
too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, 150 savage orcs, then 50 ball boy riders is enough to break any man, I think, in one sitting.
I'm trying to think, like... what are they called? Those clown ones.
Harlequins.
Yeah, Harlequins. I'm not a fan.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, not a fan.
'Cause-
Yeah, I don't like those. I don't know why. I think it's because they're clownish and I'm terrified of clowns.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good reason.
it just puts me off. Like, I can appreciate why other people like them, but for me, it's a no.
Can I tell you a
It's a
secret?
no for me. Yeah.
So when we were doing, we did a paint guide when the codex was being redone and the plastics were coming out. We were asked to do some colour variants, and we had like some like little sketch that one of the artists had did, and we just coloured it in. So then the other artists would do like some vignettes, and I channeled my inner Ronald McDonald and did a colour variant to look a bit like Ronald McDonald, and it got through. So there is like one that looks a bit like a weird clown. So yeah.
I'm leaving. Bye.
So I'm not sorry.
And that's your fault.
You will be.
Micah Ben Toby. So on a previous chat, we had some theories, some conspiracy theories as to why Duncan Rhodes left and as to why I left. What would your conspiracy theory be to why Duncan left Games Workshop and why I left Games Workshop?
I'm not the right person to ask. I was saying
It could
earlier
be wild
that
and absolutely daft. You don't have to answer it. It's fine.
I think the reason you did is because your hair's not good enough.
it's not. I can't get the views, and I think I was struggling with that. I was struggling with the hair, and I did get a few comments about
Yeah.
it.
I don't know. I was literally saying earlier, like, all of this stuff, like, is so over my head. I can't even think of a funny response for Duncan because, like,
He's just too serious. And I think that's the problem. I think that's why he left. He was pushed out of the business because he was just too serious.
Yeah.
You look at his face, you think, mate, you just need to chill out a bit. And he's like, and every time when we went off camera, he'd sometimes have a smile when he's doing his filming, but when he off camera, it turned into like a really grumpy, miserable face. I was like, "Has the wind changed, mate?" And it's just like, "Don't talk to me. Get back in that." Because he had like a little trailer. It's like, get back in the trailer and start splitting my Smarties up. I'd be like, okay, right, sorry, Lord and Saviour. So I'd go in and I'd be there splitting them, and he'd come in and he'd just knock them all on the floor again. It was horrible to work with. The guy was horrible to work with. It was.
I literally can't work out if you're... I'm assuming...
He is.
I'm making up, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Duncan just left.
See, this is the thing. It said, like, I'm the wrong person to like, ask the question because, like, I don't know what's true and what isn't.
Oh,
The
yeah.
amount of stuff I hear.
I could have got away with that.
No, it was when you were like, it's horrible to work with because I was like, you wouldn't say this on, like,
Yeah.
on here. So.
No, it was great. No, he just like me, just wanted to change the scenery, do
Yeah,
stuff for
I can
ourselves.
see why like people make that choice. I followed one of his tutorials on was it like, I think it was weathering. Oh, what was it I followed it on? I can't remember now. But he's very talented.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah. I've never met him
taught him
before.
everything he knows.
Yeah.
Taught some of it.
Nice try.
Oh, Shawless has asked, what's the most annoying colour to paint with? Do you have a colour you hate?
Wraithbone
Oh, yeah.
does my absolute head in.
A few coats of that.
Like, I just can't, like, hate it. Absolutely hate it. I think there's another one as well. What is it? It's another, like white-ish
It's not going to be
coloured
Pallid
one.
Witch Chalk, is it?
That's it, yeah.
I've had a feeling it'll be Pallid Witch Chalk.
Chalk.
We used to call it that in the
I mean,
RPC.
yeah, it's like that. It should be renamed Pallid Witch Chalk, to be fair, or just chalk.
Yeah.
Just chalk.
Yeah, just chalk, yeah.
Pot of chalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my answer.
I mean, in a way, I get a lot more life out of it because I add more water, mix it, and it's like a nice layer for a time. Then the water evaporates over time, and you add a bit more water.
I don't have time for that. I just want to be able to dip my brush in, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
You want to buy it and
Yeah.
it work.
Exactly. I know that's too much to ask, but yeah, that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
I've got two more, I think. And we've got Aaron Chillington saying, "Hi Rachel, what's been your favourite book or story?"
I haven't like read much, to be fair. I've only read like Horus Heresy. I think I'm on Flight of the Eisenstein. I can't remember now, but I haven't read for ages. I liked the third one, Galaxy in Flames, isn't it?
Yes,
that's the one.
that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was brilliant. Really liked that. But yeah, I haven't done much reading, which is good.
I haven't either.
Yeah, because I'm really into like fantasy, like books, as in like not Warhammer fantasy, as in just fantasy.
yeah.
I think because I write it as well, it's like it's inspiration for me. So like all my reading time is taken up by books I'm already reading, and then it's like they're all series as well. So I just don't have time to read anything else.
I'll ask you a question then. I've scrolled through. Most of them are very similar to what we've already asked. So, on a previous podcast, we talked to. I came across a description of high fantasy and low fantasy.
Low fantasy.
Yeah. So there's two types.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's really interesting. Never really. Is that something you've ever come across?
No.
No, because the same. I mean, I've been
No.
into fantasy for so many years, and like D&D and like all these different things.
Yeah.
There was, and we had on that chat a few people commented going there what they thought their definition was.
Yeah.
And I think it does vary depending on what the schools are thought. But the concept in this book that I read, because it was a fantasy art book, because I love art. High fantasy is a made up setting,
Yeah, that's
whereas low fantasy tends to be it is the world but with magic and monsters in it.
See, so that fits in with my two definitions. However, I call low fantasy urban fantasy.
Oh.
Yeah, so
okay.
like I agree with those descriptions, but I call it urban fantasy because it's like set in the world, but it's like bringing magic. And then high fantasy is all like completely like made up realms with magic, like wizards, fairies, like stuff like that. So
you say you write a lot of fantasy stuff. Have you done like books and novels yourself then?
So I've literally started like 3 fantasy books, but I struggle with writing, and I was saying this to Spencer yesterday or the day before. So the best tip I've been given for writing is to just write. Don't go sentences, like don't overthink, but that's just not me. I will like agonize over one paragraph for like 4 days. So one of the fantasy books I started writing, I think I've done like 4 chapters. They're quite long chapters. But I just got so stressed with my own need to be perfect with writing that I just stopped writing it. And now I've got a completely new plot that I've only come up with in the past few days. So I'm going to start writing that. But I'm determined to actually finish a novel. Because, this will be the 4th one that I've started.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So, but it's just hard. It's just difficult to...
And what kind of like subject matter are you doing in it? Or, like, you know, I don't know if anyone's ever read Just the Legend and like those kind of things. So that's a high fantasy, but it feels in my head low fantasy. But it's about a big burly warrior with an axe, and he's called Druss. And there's like 3 books about him, but there's loads of stuff around it by an author called David Gemmell. I think he's passed now. But I really love those kind of novels, and it's their own thing. It feels Lord of the Ringsy, Game of Thronesy, and it's its own sort of genre of that. How would you describe your kind of stuff?
The first one I started was urban fantasy, and it was very much based around like wizards, and obviously mixing like the world as it is with that. The one I'm starting writing is completely high fantasy, so like there's humans in it, but it's like different world, like it's entirely like fantastical.
I say fantastical. I've told it's not a word, but it is, because we use it a lot.
I just find it, I think it's like actually, because I don't know if anyone like watching / listening finds this if you write fantasy. When I found with urban fantasy, because you're trying to mix in like actual world stuff, it can sometimes like come across really cheesy. Like I feel like you'll only understand this if you've written fantasy, but it just I don't know, it feels a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to write as well, because you've got to think in 2 entirely different mindsets. Whereas high fantasy, it's like, right, everything I'm writing is completely made up, so you've got more flexibility and more like free reign with like directions to go in terms of plot. So I'm finding already fleshing out the plot for this high fantasy one is so much easier.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. And also I said to Spencer, I feel like I've read it already,
Okay.
even though I haven't written it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't know how that works, but I think that's a good sign.
Do you tend to, because this is what I've always been intrigued by, anyone that does fantasy, because I like drawing stuff.
Yeah.
I like maps and things. Do you have a map? Do you have like a location in mind of what the world would look like?
I probably would do a map for this one. This one is heavily dragons and like fae.
Okay.
So they're and I think like dragons, elves, humans, and then there's some other like kind. But I think I probably because of, I'm not going to go through the plot, but because of like my plans for it, I think I will draw. You can draw me a map.
I could draw a map. I do map. I like
Oh my
drawing
god,
maps.
draw me a map.
I'll draw you a map. Just give
Oh
us
my
some
god,
names.
yes.
Or
This
I've
is
seen
a
like
great
some people on
plan.
Instagram, they like get rice and they just chuck it on the table and then they just draw around it on paper and that
Yeah.
becomes their islands and their lands.
Oh my god, that's an amazing idea.
Totally, yeah.
From,
Oh, you have to draw this map for me. That's
yeah.
so cool.
Hand drawn, obviously great. I used for a D&D campaign a website where you exclusively use it to build.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Build
wow.
maps.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Like knew this existed.
Computer games, Age of Empires, you can go auto create and then it just makes you a map, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just something I was. The reason why I asked is like I find like D&D early days, they probably didn't have locations, but over the years of doing these D&D sort of modules and like the stories and stuff. So I was a big fan of a computer game called Baldur's Gate, and they did like a bunch of them. There was one called Icewind Dale, and it wasn't until I really got into that and understand that it's the D&D engine. I used to do this with my brother. That they had a map, and it was like, oh cool. And then as I've got over the years, I didn't realise how big Faerun was, like the Forgotten Realms and Faerun, and like all the places I visited in these games are all on this map, and you become like really attached to it. It's like, I played a game about Waterdeep, and that's up there, and Baldur's Gate's here, and I did a game called Neverwinter Nights, and that's over there, and oh my god! So I really love that kind of stuff where you suddenly like recognise places from several different games, even though they're meant to be linked and whatever.
That's really cool.
But,
Yeah.
I like that.
love stuff like that. Cool. The only thing I was going to ask before we probably finish, because I don't know how long your batches have got left.
We're an hour and 40 nearly.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, we talked.
Oh, I
at
must
long
shut some.
Harris.
beep, beep,
Really
beep, beep, beep.
So before we wrap up, the question, I guess, for anyone that's younger out there, like younger kids, younger girls in the hobby, they see this as quite a male-dominated thing. What kind of advice would you chuck out there to anyone like wanting to get into the hobby, thinking this isn't for me? Am I allowed to be in this?
I think firstly, reach out to other women in the hobby. Like, if any of you are actually watching, like, drop me a message. Like, I think it's because of the challenges we can face, it's really important to feel like you've got that support network of like other women that you can relate to you and like support you if you get like nasty comments and things like that. But I think it's just important to remember, like we said earlier, like there is negative, but it's largely very outweighed by positive. And honestly, I've never in my entire life had the level of support that I have in the hobby from like 98% of people. Unfortunately, like it is human nature to remember the negatives over the positive, and sometimes it can, because of that, make it feel like it is a negative environment. But again, like when these things happen, just focus on then the supportive response you get. But yeah, mainly I think just reach out to other women. I think that's like probably my number one bit of advice is don't feel afraid to like message any women in the hobby, because they'll be so supportive. Like literally all the women I know are so lovely. Like there's not one person that I've ever come across that I don't like.
Yeah.
Except Peachy. No, joking.
Granny.
Hate him.
The Warhammer
Gran.
Gran.
The Warhammer Gran.
I guess that's the thing though, isn't it? It's like you've all got those shared experiences, you've all been through it, so you know the advice. But you're right to point out there is like 98%, probably more than that, of people that are really good.
Definitely.
And it's like experiences when I used to work in retail. You always, from being on that side, I always try and, when you see like a cashier or whatever having a bad day, they only remember the bad parts.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You always try and
That's it.
make their day feel just as good. So I totally get that and respect it. But this hobby's for everybody.
It is.
Which it's
Number
weird
one
that you
thing
have
to
to say
remember.
that.
Yeah.
It's weird that you have to say that. And I know it's never been like in a publication saying this is for men and whatever. And I know boys gravitate to it more. And me and my wife have talked about this at length. And she never did the hobby because she didn't think it was for her. She just didn't do it because she wasn't excited by it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the case for a lot of folks. I mean, there's my uncle, one of my brothers probably isn't as active in the hobby as some of the others because he prefers playing football and doing
Yeah,
other
that's fair
stuff.
enough. Just do what you want.
Exactly.
Literally just do what you want. Within reason and within the law.
Yes.
Thought I'd put that disclaimer on. It's like, I've just gone and like robbed a bank. Well, the Warhammer girl said do what you want, so I did
what makes
it.
you happy.
Yeah.
That made me happy because look at all the Wonga.
Yeah. Wonga.
Wonga, I've not heard that for years.
Oh dear. But yeah, it is for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing to remember. And remember that there's like so many people that even if you've never spoken to them, will support you. They'll send honestly, some messages I've received, as I said, have like drawn me to tears, like because they're so lovely. So just remember, like, I think the positive does outweigh the negative, and there's a lot of women now in the hobby, so I think it's actually a good time for like younger women and just other women in general to get into it, because I think there's been like a massive shift. So get into Warhammer because it's really cool. That sounded really sarcastic.
No, not at all. I did a little, before I left workshop, I did a little shoot for marketing, and I had my niece Lily, my nephew, and then my brother brought his partner's kids down as well, and so there was 2 boys, 2 girls. They all loved it, and I know Lily's a big fan of like sort of fantasy art and stuff like that. She's a big fan of fantasy. She's very much into like Stranger Things. She loves Harry Potter. When I started to explain, like, you can get Harry Potter figures, right? She's like, what? So it's there's something out there, even if it's not all Games Workshop orientated. There's definitely something out there that's miniature based that. I mean, I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I never thought I'd see Star Wars figures like the Star Wars.
They're really cool.
Yeah, Star Wars Legion stuff's great. So
just need Studio Ghibli now, and then my life will literally be made.
That's it. Yeah.
I wish.
Mean, all you need to do is get on like, I don't know, Blender and learn to do some freeform sculpting. Or
thing is, I thought about stuff like that. I thought, maybe I can get someone, like, pay someone to make a Studio Ghibli mini. But then I'm like, is there some sort of copyright with that?
I don't know. Probably, maybe.
Yeah. If any of you know, please tell me.
Put in the comments.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you for everyone watching the show. Thank you very much for coming on,
thank
Rachel.
you for having me.
Have fun at Salute. We'll probably see
yes,
each other there.
I will see you there, yeah.
So I hope that all goes well. If
Thank
you have
you.
any questions or you got things you want to, we'll put Rachel's Instagram in the link as well. So if you got any questions or things you just want to say, chuck them in. We're always up for listening. And any suggestions for other guests as well. That's always a good one. So if you can think of any other cool female guests to have on the hobby.
There's so many.
Oh, there is.
So many.
I've literally been making lists of people that I want to get on the show. Some of them I think will be harder to get. Whether that's like Dan Abner all the way down to there's folks in the States, because we want to do like in the room conversations.
It's good. Yeah, I really like that format, to be fair.
So trying to get some folks is going to be harder, but definitely. So any suggestions, chuck them in. As always, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thank you to our patrons as well for the questions, but also
very
for
good
supporters.
questions.
They are some very good ones. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching me and putting up with my bad sense of humour.
And thanks for putting up with Pat's poor voice. Toodle pip, see you later.
Bye.
Bye.